Alright, yesterday's enterprise, old school method. So I've been building this ambassador using fiber. The only issue isn't whether there's enough room to light it all up. The real issue is can this bend enough? And after I got about this far, which is nearly done, I was questioning the wisdom of trying to put this many fiber in this small of a model. So then when I had to go to the Orion, I wanted to try with just LEDs. LED strips I didn't think would work because in each 3 or 1 inch segment there's only 3 LEDs. I figured I'd get a lot brighter with using single LEDs, which is certainly the old school. So what I did is I started with the bottom, and almost all the lights were towards the top. So all these lights, I just bent the anodes and the cathodes so that they're a 90-degree angle to the actual diode, so they're pointing up. I wired in 2 different ways. One is a cross that goes like this, and that LED actually burnt out. There's the cross that goes this way. That's one series, and then the other one is a sort of star that's turned 90 degrees or 45 degrees, and that is what these 4 are right here. So there's 8 there, one's burnt out, and that's designed to light the bottom of this right here. And then in the center, one LED pointing down to light the planetary sensor dome. The inside, the light block has been removed. The outside, it hasn't been yet, so that's why it's kind of weird looking. There's still the initial primer and whatnot on top of there. And then that's enough to light all the windows that line the saucer. These haven't been drilled on this side, but line the saucer. It's enough for those. It's also enough to light the top up here, but it's I didn't think it would be enough to catch the rim. So I laid in LEDs all the way around. This one, either the anode or the cathode broke off right at the mounting point. The way they're wired is each one is a pair wired together, and the ground is at the top. The positive is in the middle. These all point outwards. This is it's kind of hard to see, but everything's been painted. Let's see, I think black first, the adhesion promoter, then black, and then silver as a reflective coating. And I'm hoping that should be enough, which is kind of a lot of LEDs. They're all 3mm whites. The only thing that doesn't seem to be lighting up too well, you can see that it looks pretty decent, not crazy gray. You can see that it almost looks like there's hot spots, which you're going to get if you're not using fiber. So you can't really complain about that. It does look like it's a little dead right there, which is where the LED is at. So I guess I'm going to have to replace that LED, because just by doing this and looking at it, I can tell that that spot is not as bright as the rest. And then turning it over, it's where the LED is burnt out. Or not burnt out, it's broken off. So I'll replace that one so it's even. And I'm running this at 3 volts, and it's unresistored. I don't have that much experience with electronics to know what resistors to put on here and what voltage to run it at. They're not in series, they're parallel. So it's my understanding that if you run them in a series, then you may not have to resistor them, because it just kind of draws that current. I mean, it depends. You can run it at 12 volts. I did a couple of experiments with basically a daisy chain of LEDs. I could run 5 or 6 of them at 12 volts, where if you run them in parallel, they still have to be the proper voltage per one. So I'd like to push this a little brighter, but I don't really understand amperage and voltage. I don't quite get that, so I'll do a little bit of research. I know there's online resources that do that. The only drawback to this that I've noticed so far is the windows that line the BC deck aren't really lighting up, but that's because the holes, I think, aren't drilled very well. I had to actually use a different drill bit because I didn't have the right chalk, and it's just too small. So I think I'm going to go back over it. Also, what will help the lights is there is no, not diffusion, but window making stuff in there. So you're just seeing straight holes. Once that window making, that should even things out a bit. What I originally wanted to do was put a few LEDs, then toss in a few fibers to see how that all kind of worked. But I kind of like this a bit better. And this also adds some variety. So it's not just pure brightness wherever you turn. or wherever it is, it's, you know, it varies. You know, you catch the windows at different angles, which I kind of like. The only downside is, you know, when you look at it like this, it's nice and bright. When you start changing your angle, the flatter you go, you really don't see anything. And granted, this is going inside the Borg diorama where the light is going to be low, but it still kind of makes it, it's kind of weird that you can only use it at some angles. Maybe it does behoove me to put very short fibers in there that are like literally 1/4 of an inch, just below the surface here, and then just barely touch. I don't know, that might be too much. The only other thing is I started working on the saucer, which I may or may not include. I have to line this up. Oops, I get it so it's nice and it's kind of lined up. You can see there's a bit of a gap right there that doesn't, it's supposed to kind of go all the way up. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to fix that a little bit, quite a bit actually. Smooth out the surface, give it a little bit of a sand, and I think all the fine like cracks and whatnot that are in here, I think I'm going to use some Mr. Surfacer for that. And I'm not going to like detail this out like all crazy, it's just going to be what it is. That's adequate because I think all you're going to see in this is something, you know, like this. You're just going to see it scooting out if it's included at all. That's it. The only thing is I'm gonna work on this a little bit more, get it to what I would call the lighting, at least in the saucer, done, so that I can determine if this is the correct course of action, and then I can remove all these if that's the case. So once I'm satisfied with the lighting, I know that's what I want to do, then I can remove these and then turn this into this, and then I have to do the windows in here, and I have to determine what I'm going to do about that. I'm pretty positive this is going to turn into this, and this is going to turn into this too, as far as the lighting methodology. The fibers, not so good. Little frustrated with that, but I mean, it was kind of silly to try to put that much in there. Once that's done, I'm kind of tempted to taking a break. I'm thinking about working on the 420 Defiant, something that's not this, or maybe even switching over to just working straight on the cube. I would like to get at least one wall lit up, so I can, I mean, because as it stands now, it's just a hulk of wood and resin, and it's certainly not impressive. So I think I might take, it's a 4-day weekend, but we're doing a bunch of stuff with the kids. If I have time or whatever it is, I think I might work on this. Actually, what's really cool about the reason I installed in the cube was I had to solder up a bunch of the LED tape. My soldering skills really suck bad, but last week I was watching someone's video, and I kind of went into it on the Melbourne. Is I tried their way of soldering, and if you'll see, my soldering. Well, I don't think you ever saw. I never posted a video of how bad my soldering was, but it was super, super bad. I mean, I could not solder two things together. I couldn't figure it out. So I kind of revamped all the different steps that I did and the way I did things, and now I can solder really well. Not great, but I think good enough where I can actually solder on LED tape, which I could never do before. I figured out what it is, and it's basically it's the way I was cleaning my tip on my solder, and how I'd go about doing it. I would clean my solder, my soldering tip, very, very seldomly. Now, after everything I solder, I wipe off that the rosin, and I even clean up the tip. I have a file that I use to clean up the tip, and now I'm not having the issues with things sticking. Before, I really could not get solder to stick, or I'd melt solder or just turn into a ball. It would never stick to an anode or a cathode or a wire or anything. I couldn't do anything with it. It was really frustrating. The only way I could get anything to work was putting gobs and gobs of solder. And now, when I did the Melbourne, I had great luck. I was really super happy, very impressed, ecstatic, and then I wanted to, and that encouraged me to try this methodology using all the different LEDs, and then this, all the soldering worked great. I just had 1 or 2 issues, and that was one, I got lazy again. I stopped cleaning my tip, and I started getting the problem that I always have, and that reinforced the need to keep the tip clean. And then I just broke a couple of cathodes off some LEDs, which I already discussed, and that's it. So once this is buttoned up this weekend sometime, I'm going to move on to the Ambassador class, the actual, not the Orion, the Ambassador, finish that up. Assuming this is the lighting I'm going to use, fix that, then work on the saucer. I'm gonna do the saucer at the same time I'm doing this, whether I use it in the fleet or not, because it's pretty cool. It's what I always want to do to the 1400 scale, but I haven't built one since I was a kid. And then once that's done, everything is ready to get. Everything's ready for paint, with the exception of the Defiant, which I was just waiting for some paint to dry on the inside. The Voyager, which I was having some issues with drilling through the dealios, drilling through the metal, but they make a 2500 resin kit, so I may go that route. Button it up. We're gonna put that on pause. Get these buttoned up, and then everything is done except for the Nova class. And I think that's it. And then if I get anything additional like Steam Runners or Thunderchilds or Akiras, those are the only additional things. I'll have my fleet kind of set up. Then I'm going to go full bore on the cube, get at least 2 sides done so it's presentable, so we can take a look at what it looks like in the quasi-finished state. Alright, thanks for watching.